Hey guys, my name's Trey Byars and I'm running for student body president. When I was deciding whether or not to run, one of the biggest things I kept on thinking about was my time that I served as Jonathan Kaufman's chief of staff. In that time I spent serving him and serving students, I learned a lot about what the role of student body president means, as well as how you can be effective in that role. I've learned from his mistakes and some of the things he's done well in addition to that. So one thing that I've really learned is that there's a lot of problems on this campus that we can fix, but we can't necessarily fix all the big problems. We need to fix some of the smaller ones. So like an example is the University of Arkansas does a really good job. A lot of students on their campus get parking tickets similar to ours. So they have a work it off program where if you do 2 hours community service, you can get that parking ticket expunged, gone, written off. It's a way to give back to the community, but it's also a way to save students money. The job of any government is to make life easier for the people they represent. So that's one thing I want to do. The most important job as student body president is to advocate for students at Board of Trustees meetings. In the time I served Jonathan as chief of staff, I met with every single Board of Trustee member. I know each of them personally. I know what they like, I know what they dislike, and more importantly, I know how to get things done and to win. In my time with Jonathan, I worked over the summer and met with every single Board of Trustee member to allow Jonathan to speak for 30 minutes at each board meeting. This allowed him to go and speak about what students cared about and what we need fixed. So this is something I've fought for and we've already won on. I'm ready to fight for students every single day. I'm excited. I think this is something that I can be very good at, and it's something that we can help improve student life here. Thank you for your time. I'm looking forward to y'all's questions. Generally, the underlying thing of my campaign is to create your own Carolina community. So really what I want to do is, and I've seen this firsthand with people I've met and freshmen I've met, is that they don't necessarily know how to get involved or what to get involved with. And I think the role of student government is not necessarily to act like we're the best and to force students to do things, but to at least show them that there are other options available and there's ways for more students to get involved. So that's one of the things I want to do, and I think ways to do this is they're having Twitter town halls each week, allowing students to ask me any question they may want. Student government likes to put on these events where we have dialogues, and not many students go to these events, and it's kind of awkward and it's not very fun for anyone. But I think we could do a lot better job reaching out to students if we used more social media engagement and made sure that they're getting their message out and we're answering their questions. So another thing I want to do, every year students come here and say they want to have open office hours where any student can come in their office and talk to them about their problems. No student's going to go into the student body president's office and talk to them about issues they're having. I mean, some will, but not necessarily the amount that we need. So one thing I want to do is have satellite office hours. So one day from 12 to 5, I want to be at the colloquium, and anyone can grab coffee with me and talk to me about any issue they may want. They can talk to me about sports. I love talking about sports. But I just want to be there for students and make sure that I'm fighting for them. I want to help work fixing parking problems with a parking ticket program where we can save students money. I want to work with Uber and other companies to get discounted prices for students on certain goods and services. I also want to work to make sure we're putting on more events for students to get more students involved and engaged in campus. Really, I just want to allow students to create their own Carolina community and to get more involved in ways that they think that they would, it would make their Carolina experience that much better. I know one thing, and I've mentioned this before, on day one, if I were fortunate enough to win, I want to fight for more funding for OMSA. The amount of funding they get is ridiculous. It's not up to par with almost any other student organization on campus. And we've got to really make sure that we fight for them to make sure they get the money they deserve. But we also need to do a better job of recruiting minorities at different levels. So I think one thing we need to do better, the University of Wisconsin does this, is that they really work. They even have an administration official who literally goes to high schools, elementary schools, and middle schools in the state of Wisconsin all year long and talks to students about what the university has to offer. So this is something I want to do for the University of South Carolina. Our university brags a lot about how we are first in the SEC with 10.5% of our student body is African American. Like this is some great accomplishment. It's really not. We've got to do a lot better of a job making sure that students feel comfortable on campus and getting the most out of their experience. The last time I talked to Jonathan about it, he said it was going to be ready in May. I think from when we discussed it, the plan was for student government to pay for it for the first year, and then the university would take over and pay for it in the later years. So that's something that I'd like to do. I haven't been privy to the knowledge of how much money that app cost or what, how much it costs just to develop it and to continue maintaining it and making it better and better each year. I think the USC app is an important part of what student government has done this past year, and I'm excited to see what happens in the future. It was Jonathan's biggest platform point, and I think it's pretty awesome that he actually got it accomplished, because I know student government, we talk about accomplishing things each year, and a lot of years we don't really have much to show for it. Getting Carolina Cash took 9 years getting the Carolina card to go off campus. So I think it's something that's great that we've gotten it accomplished, but with specifics to money, that'd be something I'd have to look into if I were fortunate enough to be in the office. But I mean, I don't think it's something we can spend a humongous amount of our budget on, because there's so much more, many more things we have to produce for students. I think there's 3 things. Well, actually, there's probably 4 things, but I probably don't have enough time to go through each of them. I think one thing we do, and I think Ross Lordos, who's running for student body vice president's done a really good job of mentioning this. We have to really make sure we go and speak to these organizations, but we never go back and speak after campaigning. So I want to go back and speak to almost every single organization, every quarter, and make sure that I'm reaching out to them and hearing about issues they're having on campus. But also, we need to bring student government to students, make sure that they see what we're doing, as well as what we could be doing better. So that's why I want to have Twitter town halls where students can come each week with any problem, or even if they have ideas they think that can fix problems on campus, they can give us those ideas. Another thing I want to do is to make sure that we're really representing the student voice. So I want to make sure by having satellite office hours that any student come up and talk to me about any single thing they want to. My job is to represent students and to fight for them, and that's something that I take very seriously. This isn't a job that you can just show up for and sit in your office and throw a big concert and then think that's the only thing you can do in your term. You've got to fight for students every single day, because I've seen it firsthand. When the Board of Trustees meets in April and decides whether or not they're going to raise tuition again or not, you need someone who knows what they're doing, knows how to win that fight, and knows that this is an important job and something to take seriously. You have to be prepared. That's something I take very seriously. One thing that, and I saw this with Jonathan, because Jonathan didn't necessarily have the relationships or the connections going into his term, and the transition was a little bit shaky too. It would be a pretty seamless transition for me if I was fortunate enough to be student body president, because I've served under Jonathan. I've served with almost every single person in student government I've served with. I've been inside of student government, I've been outside of student government. I've met probably every single administration official you can think of and already talked to them about ideas I have, ways we can fix things. I know every single board trustee member. It's not a thing, it's not something that I can go in there. Usually the student body president, when they're elected, it takes them about 6 months to meet with board trustees members and to get them, kind of feel them out and get to know them. I can step in on day one and pretty much tell them how I feel and not really feel worried about mixing words, because I'm Trey and I'm just going to be honest with them. I'm not going to really beat around the bush. I'm just going to be very honest, because at the end of the day, I've got a year to fight for students, and that's what I want to do every single day. So one thing I want to do is I want to be the student who fights for other students. I'm just a normal guy. I really am. I'm a normal guy who wants to make a difference. I'm not running to put something on my resume. I'm not running to achieve a sort of status. I'm running because I genuinely care. I see a lot of problems on our campus that have existed for over 30 years. When I was deciding whether or not to run, I talked to my dad about my platform. My dad was a student at USC in the late 80s. And he said, wait, we still have that problem? And I think that's really something we need to fix. We really need to fix things on campus that are easy to fix with just reasonable, innovative ideas. And I think that's something that I've come up with. But also, we need a student who's going to fight. And I'm ready to fight on day one. When that Board of Trustee meeting comes in April, when they decide whether or not they're going to raise tuition or not, I'm ready to fight on day one. There are students out there who literally will not eat food 1 or 2 days a week because they can't, because they're paying for their own tuition, they can't pay for it. They can't take the internship they really want because they have to take the minimum wage job because they're paying for their own tuition. I know I have personal friends who are going through the same thing. We need someone who knows how to fight and knows how to win. I'm ready to fight on day one, and I will never take this job for granted, because I know how important it is, and I know that the students need someone they trust. They also need someone who's a leader and who will fight for them each and every day. I thank you guys for your time. I'm really excited to be here and thankful you guys gave me a few minutes.